A lone cowboy was riding through the forest late at night when he saw a cabin engulfed in flames. Inside the fire, someone was screaming. When the cowboy ran inside to help, what he found would change his life forever. The night wind rushed through the tall pine trees as Ethan Walker rode quietly along the narrow forest trail. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds, leaving the woods almost completely dark. Ethan had spent the entire day checking cattle fences on the far side of his ranch, and now he was finally heading home. His horse moved steadily along the dirt path. Then suddenly, the horse stopped. Its ears shot forward. Ethan frowned. "What is it, boy?" he muttered. Then he saw it. Through the trees ahead, an orange glow flickered against the night sky. At first he thought it was lightning, but then smoke drifted between the branches. Ethan's eyes widened. Fire! He kicked his horse forward. As he pushed through the trees, the full sight came into view. A small wooden cabin was burning. Flames climbed the walls while thick black smoke poured into the sky. The roof had already begun to collapse. Ethan jumped off his horse and ran toward the cabin. "Hello!" he shouted. "Anyone inside?" The fire roared louder. Then, from inside the cabin, he heard it, a weak voice. A child. "Help!" Ethan's heart slammed in his chest. Without thinking, he wrapped his coat around his arm and kicked the cabin door open. Smoke exploded outward as he rushed inside. The room was filled with flames and falling embers. Ethan searched through the smoke desperately. Then he saw something move beneath a wooden table. A small boy, barely 6 years old, curled up on the floor. Ethan hurried forward and lifted the child into his arms. "It's okay," he said quickly. "I've got you." But as Ethan turned to leave the burning cabin, the boy whispered something that made him stop cold. "My mama, she's still inside." Ethan Walker froze in the middle of the burning cabin. Smoke filled his lungs as the small boy clung tightly to his coat. "My mama, she's still inside," the boy whispered again. Ethan's heart pounded. The flames were already crawling across the ceiling beams, and burning would crack loudly above them. If anyone was still inside, there wasn't much time left. Ethan knelt quickly beside the door and wrapped his coat around the boy. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "You stay right here outside, all right?" The boy's eyes filled with fear. "But, Mama—" "I'll find her," Ethan promised. Without waiting another second, Ethan turned and rushed back into the burning cabin. The heat hit him like a wall. Thick smoke blurred his vision as he moved deeper inside. "Hello," he shouted. "Can anyone hear me?" The only answer was the roar of fire. Then, a weak cough. It came from the back room. Ethan pushed through the smoke and kicked open the bedroom door. Inside, a woman lay on the floor near the bed, barely conscious. A fallen beam blocked part of the doorway, flames licking along the wood. Ethan hurried forward and lifted the beam aside with all his strength. Then he knelt beside the woman. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Her eyes opened slightly. "The boy," she whispered weakly. "He's safe," Ethan said quickly. "He's outside." Relief passed across her face. But as Ethan helped her stand, she grabbed his arm suddenly. "You have to protect him," she said urgently. Ethan frowned. Protect him from who? Before she could answer, the burning roof above them cracked loudly, and part of the ceiling began to collapse. The ceiling beam cracked loudly. Burning wood crashed onto the floor behind Ethan, sending sparks and smoke into the air. "We have to go," Ethan shouted. He quickly lifted the woman to her feet and wrapped her arm around his shoulder. The heat inside the cabin was becoming unbearable. Flames crawled across the walls, and the doorway was already filling with thick smoke. Ethan guided the woman toward the front of the cabin. "Stay with me," he said firmly. They pushed through the smoke together. Outside, the small boy was waiting near Ethan's horse, coughing and wiping tears from his eyes. "Mom!" the boy cried when he saw her. Ethan helped the woman down the steps just as part of the roof collapsed behind them. The cabin exploded with sparks as the flames swallowed the rest of the building. All three of them stumbled across the dirt yard, away from the heat. The boy ran into his mother's arms. She held him tightly, tears running down her face. For a moment, none of them spoke. They simply watched the cabin burn in the darkness. Then Ethan noticed something strange. There were no lanterns inside the cabin, no cooking fire, nothing that should have started a blaze like this. Ethan turned back toward the woman. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "how'd the fire start?" The woman looked at the burning cabin. Fear slowly appeared in her eyes. "It wasn't an accident," she whispered. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" The woman tightened her arms around her son. "They came tonight," she said quietly, "and they tried to kill us." The flames in the cabin lit the dark forest like a second sunrise. Ethan Walker stood silently, staring at the burning building. "They tried to kill us," the woman had said. Ethan turned back to her. The boy clung tightly to her side, still shaking from the fire. "Who tried to kill you?" Ethan asked. The woman hesitated. Her eyes moved nervously toward the dark forest around them, as if she expected someone to step out of the shadows. Then she reached into the pocket of her dress and pulled out a small cloth bundle. She placed it carefully into Ethan's hand. "What is this?" he asked. "Proof," she whispered. Ethan slowly unfolded the cloth. Inside were several folded papers and a small silver badge. The moment Ethan saw the badge, his eyes narrowed. It belonged to the territorial marshal's office. "Where did you get this?" Ethan asked. "My husband," she said quietly. He was a marshal. Ethan's expression grew serious. "He discovered something terrible," she continued. "Men in town, powerful men, were working with criminals." Ethan glanced down at the papers again. "And these prove it?" The woman nodded. "That's why they burned our home." The boy looked up at his mother. "Are the bad men coming back?" he asked softly. The woman didn't answer, but Ethan could see the fear in her face. He folded the papers and handed them back. "You can't stay here tonight," he said firmly. "Those men may return." The woman looked at the burning cabin one last time, then back at Ethan. "Where can we go?" Ethan glanced toward the dark trail leading to his ranch. "You're coming with me," he said. But just as he finished speaking, a new sound echoed through the forest, distant but unmistakable. Horses. The sound of horses echoed through the dark trees. Ethan Walker's head snapped toward the trail. The woman grabbed her son and pulled him close. "They found us," she whispered. Ethan's eyes moved across the forest, trying to locate the riders through the shadows. The flames from the burning cabin still lit the clearing behind them, making it dangerous to stay in the open. "We have to move," Ethan said quickly. He led them toward the edge of the trees where the darkness was thicker. "Stay close to me," he told them. The boy held tightly to his mother's hand as they hurried into the forest. Behind them, the cabin collapsed with a loud crash as the fire consumed the last of the roof. The glow of the flames lit the sky, too bright. Anyone riding nearby would see it. Ethan stopped behind a large tree and looked back toward the clearing. A few moments later, 3 riders appeared near the burning cabin. They slowed their horses as they examined the fire. One of the men dismounted and walked around the wreckage. Ethan could hear their voices faintly through the trees. "They're not here," one of them said. Another rider pointed toward the forest. "Tracks lead that way." Ethan's jaw tightened. The riders were following them. The woman looked at him nervously. "What do we do?" she asked. Ethan thought for only a second. Then he whispered quietly, "We make sure they don't find you." He reached for the rifle on his saddle and stepped away from the shadows of the trees. Ethan Walker stepped out from the shadows of the forest. Behind him, the woman and her son stayed hidden between the trees. The burning cabin still lit the clearing, casting long shadows across the ground. The 3 riders near the ruins suddenly noticed him. One of them frowned. "Well, look what we found," the man said. Ethan rested his rifle against his shoulder. "You boys picked the wrong place to ride tonight." The riders glanced at each other. "Where's the woman?" the leader asked. Ethan didn't answer. The man sighed. "You know, this would be a lot easier if you just told us." Ethan's voice stayed calm. "Turn around and leave." For a moment, the forest was completely silent. Then the leader slowly reached for his revolver. Big mistake. Ethan moved faster. Crack! The rifle shot echoed through the trees. The leader's gun flew from his hand as the bullet struck the dirt beside him. The other 2 riders froze. Before they could react, another sound came from the trail. More horses. Lantern light appeared through the trees. Sheriff Dalton and his deputies rode into the clearing. "Drop the guns!" the sheriff shouted. The 2 outlaws quickly lowered their weapons. Within moments, the deputies tied their hands and dragged them from their horses. The danger was finally over. The woman stepped slowly out from the trees with her son. Tears filled her eyes as she looked at Ethan. "You saved us," she said quietly. Ethan shook his head. "You saved yourselves," he replied. The boy looked up at Ethan. "Where will we go now?" he asked. Ethan glanced at the dark forest trail leading back to his ranch. Then he gave a small smile. "You can stay at my ranch for a while," he said. The boy's face lit up, and as the flames of the old cabin faded into the night, a new beginning was waiting just down the trail. Cobb's hat face.